good enough confirmation for me. And so let me go ahead and switch my screen, guys. But before I do that, I just want to say very much with all sincerity, thank you for coming today, for attending this webinar live. If you happen to be watching, not live, I understand you couldn't make it, but I really want to thank you guys that are here live. I'm going to try to make it worth your while by being live, by interacting with you guys, answering your questions, and having a good time overall, right? Because if we're just talking trading, that's great. That's money, means money if we're right on the trades, but you also got to have a little bit of fun in life, right? So I try to do that in everything that I do. So let's go ahead and switch screens here to my slide deck. And you guys should see now, what you should see is my my slides. So the first one you see should say the title of the webinar, How to Make Bank from the 2018 Midterm Election, regardless of who wins more seats in Congress. All right, so that's the idea here. That's why it's so cool, is that there's going to be money to be made, and it's not, in my opinion, it's not a 50-50 gamble either way. It's more of a sure thing, as in the sense that you can harness the volatility and the reaction in the market from whoever wins the election, regardless if it's Republicans or Democrats winning more seats in the House and in the Senate, right? This happens to be a midterm. Obviously, we know there's no presidential aspect of this election, but it's still a big election, as it is every midterm. So disclaimer, of course, I have to go through that. There is a government required disclaimer basically saying that stocks and options trading has large potential rewards, but also large potential risk. This is mostly going to be about options, a couple of little stock plays, but mostly about options. You must be aware of the risks and be willing to accept them in order to invest in stocks and options. And so basically, guys, if you're going to trade these trades, don't trade with money you can't afford to lose, bill money, retirement money, things like that. Okay, so I'll give you another second just to look at that, and then we'll go to the next slide, and I'll tell you what you're going to learn. All right, so what you're going to learn today by attending this, and of course, the first thing you want to do is interact with me. Towards the end, I'll do Q&A and all that jazz. So, but the first bullet point I want to cover is which stocks will have a quote-unquote binary reaction to the election results within 48 hours of the midterms, which is November 6th, and I'll explain more about what that means. Secondly, how to quickly make money on the SPY if it goes up or down post-election. I really need to change that out to the GLD. I mean, the SPY is in play, but the GLD is actually the better one based off my research. So it is how to make money off the GLD ETF if it goes up or down post-election. My two best ETFs to play for the election. One of them you probably never heard me talk about, so don't think you're gonna, if you follow my services and my my alert to talk about. So you're gonna have to hang on for that, right? And then also how to make 2018 potentially your best year ever, even if you're in the red this year so far. All right, sound good? Okay, so who am I? So you guys, I mean, most of you probably have heard this stuff before about who I am. So I'm father of 4 kids. I have my nephew here, so we have 5 now kids, and I'm a born-again Christian. I'm a trader. I guess one kind of oddball thing about me that you might be interested in is I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. So, I've got character, and I stand by my team, even though they are perennial losers. I am loyal to them. So I'm also originally from Toledo, Ohio. I was born in Northeast Ohio, but grew up in Toledo, Ohio, which is Northwest Ohio. I now live in sunny Columbia, South Carolina. Much more prefer to live down here than in Ohio. Offense to weather. I am the owner of this publishing company called MM Publishing Inc. And I publish through my company actionable research and trade ideas, which is what you guys are getting here today. Here's a couple pictures of me, fairly recent, and my family, the baseball game, and a couple of our other nephews. and here at the Noah's Ark replica in Kentucky. Okay, so let's go ahead and get right into the. We got quite a bit of slides here. Let me go right into the stocks. Okay, so Facebook here. Okay, so how many of you have ever traded Facebook options? Let me know. Type a Y or a yes in the chat box if you ever traded Facebook options. So what you have to ask yourself is, so a blue wave, of course, means more Democrats winning. Red wave means more Republicans winning. So, Facebook has been at the forefront of the quote unquote Russia investigation of interference in the 2016 election, right? So they've kind of taken the brunt of the criticism from senators and congressmen and the media, and perception and headlines and things like that. Though those are important. The reason why it's in play is that there is the possibility of legislation that regulates social media. Right? This, guys, would be a big negative for Facebook. Think about it. If regulations come and add a whole new layer of compliance to Facebook, right? Meaning they have to add a whole additional wing of employees and structure and things like that and technology to comply with government regulations. That means more costs, right? That means lower profit margin. That means lower earnings per share, and most likely, at least for a certain period of time, it means a lower stock price, right? Lower market cap. So that's the way you kind of have to read into this stuff. The Democrats want this passed, and in my opinion, it's possible that President Trump would even collaborate with them on this because, he uses social media a lot, but he's not really much of a supporter of the executives, the guys in the C-suite, like Jack Dorsey for Twitter and Mark Zuckerberg for Facebook. He's not really big fans of those guys. So I could see him signing a bill possibly with Democrats, leading to new regulations on social media companies, of course, which the biggest one being obviously is Facebook, right? So there could be a big play there. Now, as far as the trading plan goes, on my next slide, the trading plan for Facebook, we'll talk more about that in a moment because this really could be one of those, you see how it's been bumping along. I know it's been going down, but it's kind of been like a controlled downtrend. We could either see a rapid escalation lower, or we could see a massive relief rally to the upside if the Republicans win more seats than they're expected to, okay? Which may mean gridlock and no new legislation that affects Facebook. Okay, so we'll talk more about that in a minute, though. Do you place the trade before the election? Do you place the trade after the election? What type of trade is it? On and on and on. Again, we'll talk more about that in a moment, okay? All right. Secondly is stocks if you've been on my most popular service, which is Microcap Millionaires, you know that I've been talking about MJ stocks or weed stocks. I saw Mike Swanson was calling them dope stocks. I thought it was pretty funny. They're dope stocks, but they've had a wild ride. There's no denying that. There was just a precipitous downfall that was like so almost depressing to be a part of for much of the year this year. But then all of a sudden they started bouncing back as legalization date grew near back in early September, and had just an awesome run into that date, which is now in the rearview mirror, and it's fully legalized in Canada now. So what we have to ask ourselves, though, how does the midterm elections in the United States play into marijuana plays? Well, one of the things that actually could happen, regardless of how many seats the Democrats win back or potentially don't win back, it is possible. I have seen some headlines floated that even the Republicans have introduced a bipartisan process for passing federal marijuana legislation next year. So you can imagine if the Senate and Congress really want to get something done together, they want to say, hey, the public's tired of us not getting anything done, and we can't agree on immigration, we can't agree on taxes, we can't agree on a lot of things, but one of the things maybe they can agree on is, say, regulating Facebook and passing marijuana laws, right? And so that's one of the things that could happen. And that, of course, would be a huge boon to select marijuana plays. So you might say, okay, Matt, that's all well and good, but aren't all MJ stocks Canadian? And the ones you're hearing about lately, most of them are, yes. No, probably all of them, except for a little penny stock that I'm playing. But it's more of a pick and shovel type play. But most, 99% of the stocks you're hearing about now in the weed sector are Canadian. But Constellation Brands, which is, they sell like alcohol, alcoholic beverages, is one of their, primary revenue drivers, are a huge company. You can see their share price is very high. It's over $200 a share. Well, they own a big stake in CGC, which is Canopy Growth, which is the biggest supplier of legal weed in Canada. And they can acquire, according to their contracts or covenants with that company, up to 51%. Well, guess what? If you own 51% of a company, you own the company, right? So that's not saying they'll do it, but if the trend remains the same and growth rates and revenue and legal marijuana keep skyrocketing in Canada, and the potential for that to trickle down here in America here in the next year or two starts to be anticipated, this could really run up more than it already has. And actually, they just got a new their old CEO just stepped down. The new CEO, from what I've been reading, is more apt and more willing, and even potentially planning on expanding their footprint as cannabis distributors, which is marijuana. So pretty interesting there. So what you have to look at STZ is that is an American-based cannabis play, right? So what is the trading plan? Well, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. It's either going to kind of continue languishing. I don't think this will see a huge downdraft either way, but there is a potential for a big move up if certain things happen in the election, okay? So so that's a couple options plays that I'm looking at so far, Facebook and Constellation Brands. But also there is Fannie Mae. So what's going on with Fannie Mae, right? Well, the clock is ticking, guys. We know that Steve Mnuchin has let us down once, but the question remains, will he let us down again? And I think the answer is there's good odds that he won't. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. So the clock is ticking. Yes, the election is coming up. Republicans and Democrats seem kind of equally disinterested in really pursuing this privatization of Fannie Mae. Let's just call it what it is. It would have been done already if it was a hot campaign issue. But guess what, guys? We're one of the few types of people who actually trade these kind of stocks, right? The general public is not buying shares of Fannie Mae hoping for Steve Mnuchin to privatize it, right? So I guess we can all kind of collectively chuckle in our seats at that thought. But the reality is there is a select group of people that want these things privatized, and it actually makes a lot of sense. I don't have time to go into all of that. But they don't belong in government conservatorship, right? It's just not American for the government to own a company for any period of time, especially a long period of time. So what's going to happen, in my opinion, guys, and this may be aided by the new Congress, but even if it isn't, the clock is ticking. What I mean by that is, my opinion, even if, so now I'm jumping ahead of the 2020 election, so bear with me, even if Donald Trump does not win re-election in 2020, okay, I think, and even if he does, either way, I think that Steve Mnuchin is going to say, hey, I did 4 years. I'm going to resign now and let somebody else be the Treasury Secretary if he wins the election, re-election. If not, then of course he has to leave anyways, because it'll be a new president with a new Treasury Secretary, right? So my point is that I think what Mnuchin's going to do is, probably because there's low odds of this going through Congress, is he's going to do something basically that's an executive action. So what Steve Mnuchin could do, guys, essentially, is he could go to his little Microsoft Word program, open it up, and, I'm exaggerating here, and it's not quite this simple, but it kind of is. He could type up a document with a nice little letterhead on it, and he could say, guess what? Fannie and Freddie, You are no longer under government control. Signed, Steve Mnuchin, have a nice day, and on his way out the door. So, he's got a lot of buddies that have a lot of money, own a lot of shares of Fannie Mae, and they're all waiting for this big payoff. It's not very smart politically if you think about it in terms of, political savviness, because that would be easy for the Democrats to say, "Oh, look at these Republicans just making the hedge fund guys rich and don't care about," right? So, if you allow me just to kind of go off on a tangent there for a second. But I really want to lay out my thinking on this, and the clock is ticking, guys, on whether or not only will Congress do something, but will Mnuchin do something. And really, I think it may be a little early, honestly. It may still be a little bit early, guys. But come, say, the middle of next year, fall of next year, if this stock still hasn't done anything, we're talking about a major anticipatory run into the likelihood that Steve Mnuchin does something with the stroke of his pen or his Microsoft Word program. All right. So I hope that made sense, but that's pretty exciting. So anyways, I just kind of talked about the trading plan there a little bit. I'll just be honest with you guys and straightforward and transparent. I think the plan here is to accumulate and buy on dips, sell on rips until, until we get nearer to that time when something might actually be done to privatize. Okay, then that's when you want to hold for the big zoom higher, maybe to like $30, $40 a share or something crazy like that. Okay. And there's also two different entities. There's not entities, but two different share structures here. Fannie Mae, FNMA is common stock. FNMAS is preferred. I prefer this one, although I do own both. In full transparency, right now I have them both in my account. But they the Fannie Mae S is your better bet, I think, overall, because it's preferred stock, okay? And it's not easy to cancel out like common stock is, in case they try some kind of bankruptcy craziness on us, all right? So let's talk about ETFs. So that was 3 midterm stocks to consider, and there's a lot more, but I don't want to be here all day with you and take up all your afternoon. So the gold ETF, this has a history of volatile reactions to recent elections, actually 3 recent elections. I'll talk about more in a second. So what's going to happen is the elections are going to come out, and investors, big banks, holders of gold, of this ETF, are going to either hit the market sell, boom, it's going to crater, or market buy, boom, it's going to shoot higher through any kind of resistance, and it'll be wonderful. Okay, so the way I'm playing this is with options, a certain option strategy. You probably know what I'm talking about if you've been with me for a while. There's strangles and straddles, and I'll have a specific plan for that. I'll have a specific trading plan for that. Okay, we'll talk more about how to get access to that and stuff like that here in a sec. All right, and then the wild card is the hack ETF. We get some more headlines, say, that there's interference in the election. There could be some buying in this ETF based on the media hype. Okay, so that would be one to kind of keep a close eye on. All right, so you might say, Matt, I'm kind of skeptical. I don't really know if the election is really that big of a trading opportunity. I know it's in the headlines, and I know that the media is talking about it, but I'm not really sure these stocks and ETFs really have good odds of making big moves before or after the midterm, right? And so you're kind of wondering that. And if you're asking me that, my answer, guys, is heck to the yes, all right? And I want to prove it to you. I want to show you some results from previous elections that show you that elections, yes, they are trading opportunities, okay? And hopefully you'll leave this webinar just as excited as I am about these trades, right? And you'll have some powder dry for them. So let's look at the Brexit. So this screenshot I saved from the Brexit results. This is what happened. UK votes to leave. Everyone was in shock, and it's still being hashed out, I guess. Over they still can't figure out exactly how they want to leave the EU, but I think they're going to end up going. They're going to have to honor the results of that election. But what happened after that result? So this is here. I saved a intraday chart of the VXX, the volatility ETF, one of them anyways. And so I bought call options on this ETF. that afternoon of the Brexit vote, well before the results were in. So of course they came in unexpectedly as a leave vote, as you know, they want to leave the EU, and so it gapped up like crazy the next day. Actually sold off a little bit pre-market, but as soon as the market opened, I sold it, my call options, at 16 bucks. That was about, if I remember correctly, about a 40% winner. All right. So elections have consequences, not just politically, but in the markets. Now, a coulda, woulda, shoulda moment from the Brexit vote is that GLD calls went up 450% overnight. Right. So a strangle would have been about 400%. So even though you lost money on the puts, it was crazy. I actually heard from a subscriber that played GLD, and he was wondering why I didn't play it. And I said, you know, that's a good question, but congratulations on your gains. So I picked the wrong ETF. He picked the right one. So that was kind of cool, at least to see him make money. But there again, you see that there is reactions to elections, all right, in the markets. Also, from our famous 2016 presidential election, you can see this screenshot is from a chart that's dated November 30th, so you can see the action before and after the election on GLD. So I bought puts here on election day. You can see the gap higher the next day if you're looking at that next candlestick, although it sold off again, and then sold off again. The third day I sold my puts for a nice profit. I don't remember the percentage, quite honestly, but it was a nice trade. And then we have the IBB. So if you remember the IBB, what was going on there, if you'll jog your memory, what was everybody saying about IBB, about biotech stocks, guys? Why were they selling off into the election? Well, let's remember two things. Hillary Clinton was the favored winner, 92% chance of winning. Number two, one of the things that Hillary Clinton was talking about doing was basically all kinds of legislation that would interfere with biotech, okay, whether or not she actually followed through on it or not. But the market was discounting that. And so when she lost, even though Trump was saying a lot of the same stuff, to be fair, running up to the election about cutting drug prices and stuff like that, there was a huge relief rally. Okay, so this thing shot from, I bought the calls down here where you see that red arrow pointing where it says buy IBB calls on election day, and then boom, the thing shot from $83, $84 almost to 98 bucks within 4 or 5 trading days after the election. So just a huge move. Again, I'm sorry, I don't really remember the percentage. Maybe I have it written down somewhere else. Maybe on the order page, I had it typed out after, because I was doing all my research as I typed that out. But I do know I made about $2,000 in profit, but I don't have an exact percentage gain for you there. Okay, so real nice trade. These are trades that you can take before the election, and there's some that you can take after the election that you don't have to buy before the election, because there's lots of tailwinds that trigger after the election. But anyways, I don't want to go off on a tangent too far. So let's cover another one. Okay, Core Civic. This is a private prison company. They operate the prisons that prisoners go to when they get a federal prison sentence. So if they commit a federal offense and convicted of that, they go to most likely one of these privately ran prisons. So you can remember also, this is one of the big sticking points that Hillary Clinton was talking about in her campaign, that she was going to close down effectively, or at least drastically reduce, the role of private prisons housing federal inmates. All right, so these stocks, naturally, as the market anticipates Hillary Clinton to win, these stocks all tank. CXW being the major one, the other one is GEO. But anyways, you guys see the notes here on my chart, right? So I bought the CXW calls. I actually bought them a little early, about a week and a half or so before the election, and kind of sat on them. They kind of languished there for me a little bit. And the election results came out, and boom, this thing went up. These went up over 600%. You can see my screenshots here. I bought them for $1. I sold them for $7.20. So it turned 1,000 into 7,200. Pretty cool. And actually, guys, it may not have been, $7 grand in profit if Hillary would have won, but I still think it would have been pretty good, because I think that was just campaign talk anyways, right? So it would have been a nice relief rally. So this is the power of election trades when you know what trades to take. That's what I mean by binary reaction. Okay, so you need to know what companies are going to have a binary reaction to election results. Okay, so you kind of got to have your ear to the ground politically, I suppose, but that's my job because that plays out in trades. So you got to have your ear to the ground. Okay, what are candidates talking about? What are they promising their voters to do? And if they're elected and implement those things, how are those going to affect certain stocks? Because there's a lot of things, campaign issues that do affect stocks. Case in point, the slide in front of your eyeballs right now. Okay, so the private prison companies had a big reaction to the election, even bigger than biotech. Okay. So again, guys, look at that. 70, so 70, I guess I paid about $1,000 for them. So, $6,200 in profit, six bagger. And that is the power of election trades. And that's what I'm sharing with you right now. And I have a whole new batch of them for you for this midterm election. All right. So do you guys see now why I get so excited over the elections, right? You think about this, you say, man, I had a so-so, or maybe you're in the green a little bit, but just a little bit, or maybe you had a red year trading so far. These election trades, guys, can change all that and fast, okay? Maybe you want to be able to withdraw a few thousand in profits from your trading account just in time for Christmas. Well, guys, this is the ticket, all right? Or if you want a roadmap to use for this election and future, say, Matt, I want to see how you trade this one so I know how to trade, because we know like clockwork, boom, every 2 years, right? There's a major election in the US. Even if it's not presidential, midterms are still a big deal. Now you'll have one if you get access to this election class that I'm going to talk about here right now. So let's talk about specific trade plans for the November 6th midterm elections. I have a complete trading plan with all my research available and trade ideas. I'll unveil all this special research and trade recommendations with 250 traders who want to trade the election with me. Now, this class is called my Midterm Election Fortunes class, a one-time event. If you get access now, you'll get in for a one-time payment, not of $15. You can easily make $1,500 or $1,000 in profit, but it's just a one-time payment of $197. Okay, and I just clicked a button where a link should be popping up underneath the webinar window, underneath the webinar, underneath the chat box, or around there somewhere, and you'll be able to click that, and it'll take you straight to the order form. Okay, and I'm sorry if my audio plays on that order form. I'll fix that so it stops audio playing. But anyways, so yeah, the link is underneath, and so the class is going to be October 30th, which is coming right up. I think that's a week from today, isn't it? Yep, a week from today at 9 p.m. Eastern. All buyers will be getting a notification of the class time. Of course, I just told you, but you'll get email and stuff like that reminding you, a link to register and all that jazz. You will receive access to the recordings of the class. Okay, so the class includes, what is in the class? Well, remember I talked about how we need specific plans for these stocks. We can't just kind of guess what to do. So that's what the class includes. It includes for all the election trades, buy and sell zones, and time frames, like what strike price to buy for the options, things like that. More detail about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Which to buy, which ones I'm really leaning as maybe it leans into, buying more common stock, maybe it's more preferred stock. All that stuff will be delineated and shared with the buyers of this class. Again, just a one-time payment of $197. And you guys, of course, could easily make that back in just one trade, right? If you're trading with even a small amount of money. So if you click the link below, you can reserve one of the 250 spots. Some of the spots have been taken up. You guys probably know I've been sending out links for this class and have a page set up that describes more about it that you maybe have seen already. So you can imagine I need to tally up how many exactly are left, but there's plenty left. Not anywhere near 250 yet, but I am going to limit it at 250. Okay. There's also bonuses. So the first bonus is email alerts on the election trade. So yes, you'll see them during the webinar in the class and the recording, but you'll also get, I'll send you email alerts when I make the buys and sells, okay? You'll also get email alerts and updates on post-election. So say, for example, we take a trade on Facebook, it starts working, say 2 days after the election, and I say, you know, I think this really has steam, I think it's going to continue to work. Well, I'll keep updating you until that trade is closed out, whether that's 2 more days, 2 more weeks, or 2 more months, all right, until all trades are closed out. Election trade bonus number 3, 90 days one-on-one personal email access to me. This way, if anything is foggy in your brain about how to make this work for you, I'll clear it up just as soon as I see that email and have a chance to respond to it, which shouldn't be long at all. All right. So total value for all these bonuses, guys, at $500 a piece, $1,500 plus the class itself, only asking for a one-time payment of $197. Again, class a week from today at 9 o'clock Eastern. Okay, and then the election is November 6th. So I'm doing the class about a full week before the election to get so you can get your mind right and get your powder dry and all that stuff and get prepped for it. Okay. So questions. How do I know these trades will work even if Dems or Republicans win? That's a great question. And so, you know, throughout the class and the trade setups, that will be explained further. What are the percentage gains? Usually, like the first 2 trades I showed you, if I remember correctly, was about 50% gains. The VXX ETF trade was 40%, but you know, the CXW trade was just huge, a 6-bagger. So I've traded. This will be the let's see, 1, 2. This will be the 3rd election that I've traded. Is that right? Yeah, Brexit 2016. Yeah. So unfortunately, once every 2 years, unless you get something crazy like a Brexit. So, you know, the elections that I have traded, I've seen great results. I haven't been trading them like for 20 years or anything, but I think the trend will continue. The elections that don't work are small, like like the special election they had for the Alabama senator, you know, 6 months ago. That's not going to make any good trades set up or anything, okay? But this is a major election, major midterm. What kind of startup capital should you have in your account? I mean, ideally, I think about $2,000. Or $2,000 to $5,000 at least, but anything other than that is will make it a little easier for you, so you can divide up your money into more than 1 trade or 2 trades. Some of these will be quick hitters, you know, 24 hours in and out. Other ones can be swing trades of a few days. Other ones could be a few weeks. Like the CXW calls, I ended up holding for about 4 or 5 weeks after the election. Okay, mostly for options, but the Fannie Mae trades, of course, are stop. Okay. Let's see, the 7th one, tell me exactly what I get, again, if I buy this. So one of the 250 seats for the live class, access to the recordings, PDF transcript of the class, and also, of course, alerts and updates via email on buys and sells on all of these election fortunes trades. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Those are just ones I had. That I thought would people would be asking, so I went ahead and kind of typed them up and decided to just read them out like that because I figured some of those might be on your minds. Anyone else have any other questions? I'm gonna just grab a drink real quick. Steve said he's asking about Fannie Mae. Why would you want to buy it? Because the clock is ticking on Steve Mnuchin. He has promised to do something to get Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac privatized, and he just hasn't done it yet. So, my opinion, I think he only does 4 years as Treasury Secretary. Even if Trump gets reelected, I think he'll resign. There's nothing dramatic about that. That happens in every administration, but there's usually a lot of cabinet members that quit after the first term, anyways. So, I think on his way out the door, he's going to say, hey, guys, his buddies on Wall Street say, hey, guys, yeah, I'm going to hook you up. And he'll get both of those companies out of government control, or at least do something substantial to that effect to get the ball rolling. That would make the prices of those 2 stocks go up a lot higher than at least where they are right now. That makes sense. So, of course, most of these are options trades, though. Any other questions? All right. Well, if I don't have any other questions, we'll just kind of do a 5-minute warning here, and then we will go from there and move on and enjoy the rest of our day. So there is a guarantee. So if you take the class and place the trades, end up losing money, just email me within 30 days of the class. Of course, to be fair to both of us, that you actually did make the trades, and I'll refund you every cent of your $197. All right. I just don't want people that buy a spot, take one of the 250 spots, and then don't show up for the class, don't make the trades, and they say, "Oh, yeah, I don't want a refund." So that's not fair to other people who would actually make the trades. Okay. So the risk is mine, not yours, right? Trades don't work, then the pressure's on me. Okay. So let's do this, guys. Let's make bank from the election together. Midterm portion is trading class and alerts. I want you to grab one of 250 spots that are available. To do so, click the link beneath this video, webinar video, whatever you want to call it. All right. So last call for questions. If not, I'll shut this down and mail you guys out the replay as soon as I get it ready to post. All right, guys, I think that's a wrap then. And again, thanks for coming out, guys, to the webinar today. And I guess think about what we talked about. See if this interests you. And you might say, well, I just don't know. The market's scaring me. Things are going down, and they haven't gone down a long time. I think it's just pre-election jitters, guys, and we're really on the cusp of something big in the market. And scared money don't make money, right? So this will be a good roadmap to get you in the market at the right place at the right time, which I think is going to be early November and into the new year. Okay, so again, guys, click the link beneath this webinar video, and down there somewhere by where your comment box is, and you can click and take one of the spots. Okay, all right, guys, I'll be in touch soon, and have a great one.